Welcome back to the Augusta Civic Center for the Center Court Podcast. I'm Travis Barrett. We got another three-man booth tonight. Travis Lazarczyk is alongside. Special guest appearance from sports editor Bill Stewart. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thrilled to be here.
We can tell. We just finished up the Class A North finals here in Augusta. We opened with the girls' game, which was a really good game. Top-seeded Hampden finds a way to hold off Gardner. 43-37. We were sitting here deciding that might have been the best game we'd seen all week, and then the boys hit the floor, and Hampden, again, another top seed, Hampden, 52-50 over Coney. Hampden was down 10 with 6 minutes to go. Wild ending. Featured so many things. I'm just going to open it up to you guys. What stands out at you about that game tonight?
Well, first of all, the way Hampden came back in 3 consecutive games down at least 8 points in the second half. That's nuts. I mean, that's why you're the number one seed, I guess, because you're resilient and you don't get rattled. What really stood out was the way Hampden just kind of let Bryce Lozier just take over in the last 6 minutes of the game. You know, they're Mr. Basketball semifinalists. Obviously, their best player. He won the Al Halliday Award as the top player in the tournament. When Coney's up 10, he comes down and hits 3 shots in a row, including a three-pointer to cut it to 3. And then at the end of the game, he's drawing defense to him to get his teammates open for looks. And then that's it.
I think so many coaches this week who have advanced, especially into some of these regional finals. We've heard it from so many of them say, well, you know, you're going to have one bad game or one game that doesn't quite go your way or one game where you don't play your best and you find a way to win along the road. And here's the Hampden boys that had 3 of them, essentially. Yeah. And they get behind, like I said, they get behind and they still find ways to win. I think, I know Bill and I were sitting next to each other at the end of that game. We're watching Lozier play and we're thinking, he's commanding everything, but you never got the sense, Bill, jump in here, that he was trying to do too much. He was just doing what was in front of him.
Yeah, so when you get to this point in the tournament week, you get down to these regional finals, I think what you're sort of looking for are the team, the top players, the best players that kind of leave their mark, here. These crowds that number in the thousands, there's, the cliche so much on the line. And I think that's what we saw, really, in both games tonight, actually, when you think about it. And, just sitting here watching it, it was pretty incredible to see, just, getting from our vantage point here, too. But, that's, the big players, the ones who have kind of carry these teams, like, they all showed up. They all showed up, and they all turned in some pretty memorable performances here, which that was pretty cool to see.
I think if we piggyback off of that, you look at the girls' game where Hampden's down at halftime, the game is tied, 3.5 minutes to go. Hampden and Gardner are tied at 36-36, and here's Lydia Brillant, who scores 11 of her 15 points in the second half when Hampden needs it most. I would say several of the Class A North girls coaches that I've talked to this year, just whether it was in the middle of the season or now, I'll talk about Brillant as probably the most overlooked player in the entire conference. And yet here she is, as you say, on the biggest night, turning in a performance that really kind of put her team right on her shoulders.
Yeah, and she did it the whole tournament, winning the Bob Wytock Award for the most outstanding player. And, tonight she's just hitting big shot after big shot, nothing fancy, just, 12, 15-foot jumpers.
Yeah,
that's her shot, and
that's what it is too. Is there's nothing fancy. There's nothing that jumps out at you when you're watching her play. But after a while, you sit there and you're like, boy, she's just making one tough shot after another. And really, she's the one who you want to have the ball in those situations. Yeah. She's just that good.
Yeah, I think, especially early in this tournament, Hampden kind of relied on a little bit of everybody. I remember after their quarterfinal win, it was Sydney Hodgson who was their leading scorer that night. They had 4 players in double figures. In that win over Nokomis, if I go way back to the beginning of the tournament. And it was funny because I said to Sydney after that game, I said, are you surprised that, you've got, 4 players in double figures? And she goes, yeah, especially when I'm one of them. And she started laughing. And then she leads them in the semifinals with 9 points, but they had 3 other players, including Berlant, who had 8. But again, when it got really big, Berlant showed why she's their best all-around player. She did it at both ends of the floor. Let's not get too far, because we also want to talk about the Class B South boys regional final down in Portland today. Top seeded Maranacook, a 60-48 winner over number 6 Wells. That hands the Black Bears their first regional title since 2008.
Yeah, you talk about teams that kind of get that scare early and then roll. That's exactly what Maranacook did, pulling out a 2-point win in the quarterfinals over Freeport, and then handling Lake Region in the semis, and then Wells tonight.
Yeah, they had probably one of the more toughest draws that a team can get, and I believe this is the first time since 2007 that a team not in the Western Maine Conference has come out of that region.
Right.
It was Mountain Valley. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good run that the Black Bears went on, because even as you mentioned with Freeport, they played 3 really tough teams, and of course Wells. I mean, Wells is like a mainstay in that regional final. So to come out on top of that's pretty good.
I'll put you guys on the spot because I'm at that point in the week where I don't care. We hear a lot, of course we have a lot of internal discussions about players of the year and that kind of stuff, right? As we look at candidates. Why don't I hear Cash McClure's name more? Do I not? Just not listen?
No, he's a good player.
Yeah.
He certainly should be in the discussion.
Yeah, he should absolutely be in that discussion. I mean, and what year? He's sophomore? I mean, he's pretty young. I mean, he's only getting better and better. And what was that? What was the semifinal game or the final when? The semifinal when he took a shot to the nose or something.
That's right.
And still played through it, and gauze stuffed in his nostrils and all that stuff.
Comes up, makes clutch threes.
I mean,
that's it.
That's a pretty tough kid, right?
Yeah.
So he's put that team on his back here, and he's got them, rolling into a state final. And I don't know. He should be in that conversation.
Yeah. Like I said, I know I put you guys on the spot. I didn't prep you for any of this because that's the beauty of the podcast. So back here at the Civic, okay, hold on. I got to do it because I forget it every time, right? CentralMaine.com/highschoolsports. Thanks to Portland Glass, you can read all of our stuff for free this week. Entire coverage of the tournament, game stories and analysis and videos and the whole 9 yards. By now you probably know. If you found these podcasts on day 1712, you're probably familiar with what we got there. But don't forget to visit because we have more games. We have more regional finals tomorrow in Class D and Class C, and we got some state championship games coming up. So so tonight, let's look at. I want you guys to kind of look at how the last few minutes of the Coney Hamden boys game played out, because I think TJ Maines came out of the locker room and the first thing he said was, asked to describe it, was that it was heartbreaking. And I felt like Coney had a couple of opportunities that just didn't. They had chances. They let Hamden creep back, and they let Hamden creep back. Of course, we know how it ended. But is there anything that you wish in hindsight that the Rams had done to secure the victory?
They maybe could have held the ball a little more when they had a lead. They're still up 50-46 with just under 3 minutes to go. And they came down with a 4-point lead, maybe hurried a shot. I mean, they were good looks. They're shots that they've been taking all season and making quite a bit. I can't remember exactly how much time there was left, but Simon McCormick had a baseline 3 that, if he sticks it, we're talking about, what a gutsy shot for a senior leader to take. It just goes off the rim, and Hamden gets a rebound and comes down and ties the game. With 32 seconds left and down 1, they didn't call timeout, but they knew what to do, and they got the exact thing they wanted to do. McCormick drove a little bit, got the defense to attack him, and had a great pass to Dakota Dearborn for a backdoor cut, and the layup just didn't fall. Coach Maine said that's exactly, they couldn't have run it more perfectly. It just didn't fall. That's basketball.
I mean, they got the looks. I think they had those chances. I think they didn't make them. I was thinking too about, slowing things down a little bit, but then you kind of wonder, I mean, slowing down in Coney is just not, they just don't go together at all. So, to ask that team to slow it down to a snail's pace with a couple minutes. I don't know. I don't even know if they're capable of doing
Yeah, they play a certain way all season long.
Yeah.
Maybe you're asking for a turnover if you go 4 corners or something.
I wonder too. I always wonder, like, when you see those situations kind of unfold, is again, we're constantly reminded that we're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. And if the coach, with 3 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go or a minute and a half to go, wants you to start playing a completely different way to play quote-unquote safe, are you sending the message to your kids that we're all nervous now? And I always wonder, like, we're not talking about professionals, right, who get paid and do your job, and we draw it all up. We're talking about kids, and I wonder if they feel a coach tense up, if they tense up, and I mean, nobody knows that group better than TJ does.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the kids who had the looks at the end were the kids who you'd want to have those looks. I mean, they were their best players, you know, who had those chances, and that's all you can really kind of ask for. I you know, you don't want to walk out of these games, you know, going, geez, I wish we had maybe put the ball in our senior captain's hands or whatever. You know,
they used their best play in the right situation, and it just
didn't work out.
Just missed. That happens. That's high school basketball.
It's a great segue into the girls' game earlier tonight, because I think Gardner went 5-17 to close out the fourth quarter without a field goal, and Hammond's defense tightened up, and they came back, and Gardner coach Mike Gray, one of the first things he said was, you know what? They're really, really good. That's what they do. And he said there's no shame in coming out here and losing to a team that, of that caliber. I think what he said was it would be different if we came out and lost to a team we were supposed to beat. And he talked about how he didn't think his kids shrunk in the moment. They just got beat. And I think sometimes that's what happens. So I think what I'm getting at is I think for both Coney boys and Gardner girls tonight, you got beat. But you got beat doing the things that you wanted to do against teams that were really good, and sometimes
Hamden
that's what happens.
had beaten Gardner girls in the one game they played this year by 7, so about the same result there. And the Coney boys got beat twice by Hamden. Each game got a little closer than the last, but Hamden was clearly the better team.
Yeah,
and they certainly have a lot of that experience too. I mean, these moments aren't big or too big for a lot of those kids. I mean, they've been here and they've done this before. I mean, it's
I think I've tossed around the idea to one or both of you during this week is that I think every coach comes in here and they talk about, we feel like we're experienced here. Well, if I look at Class A North teams, there's a lot of teams that have been on this floor. I don't know that the experience itself on face value is much different for a Hamden and a Gardner. They've all played here in the last few years. I think the difference is when you've got regional championship on the line and that clock shows that it's got less than 3 minutes to go and the game's tight, I think that's where the experience pays off.
Yeah, the Hamden girls had that big comeback win last year against Skowhegan on this court in the regional final. Obviously not the same team, but a lot of those players were on that team and knew what to do. Didn't get rattled.
It did. I don't know. Anything else that jumps out at you guys from tonight?
No, 2 great games.
2 great games.
This is what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's regional.
Because honestly, there have not been as many great games leading up to this. There's been some poor games. And
totally agree.
To be able to come down here to the regional final or finals with both games and have those 2 type of games, that's pretty good. We can only hope tomorrow's going to be much of the same.
So a quick word on tomorrow. Travis, I know you're going up to Bangor to watch the Waterville girls take on Herman for the regional title.
Yep.
30 seconds on that.
It's a rematch of a semifinal game from last year that Waterville won by pulling away in the third quarter. Talking to the Herman people, they're like, it's pretty much the same team that beat us last year. Waterville graduated 1 player off the team last year that lost to MDI in the regional final. Going to be surprised if Herman can handle Waterville's pressure for 4 quarters. And Waterville's depth, particularly offensively, they don't have one go-to scorer. Sadie Garling's up there, Jada Murray, Maddie Martin, Kylie Thompson, and Abigail Saucier coming off the bench. That's a big test for Herman to come out with a win, even though they are the number 1 seed and Waterville's number 2.
Tomorrow here at the Augusta Civic Center, we've got both Class D South regional finals. And the girls, we've got Valley taking on Greenville. And in the boys, it's Forest Hills against Greenville.
Yeah.
Bill, what do you like there?
Well, I think Valley's gonna face a really, really tough challenge. I think Greenville presents a ton of matchup problems, especially in Class D. When you wonder with Valley too, it knocked off number 2 Rangeley in the semis, and you wonder, how if that was enough for Valley. Where you look at a team like Greenville and you wonder they're probably not going to be satisfied with just getting to a regional final. So I don't know. We'll see how that one turns out. And then on the boys' side, everything's lined up perfectly here for Forest Hills. They've got, you talk about championship experience, these big game moments and stuff like that. That's what's really going to help. Help the Tigers. I think I'd be honestly shocked if Forest Hills didn't come out of here tomorrow with a.
Forest Hills did only beat Greenville by 2 in the regular season, but that was without Parker Desjardins.
And they beat it by 31 with him.
Yeah, so I think that's I do think that changes the game dramatically. Then tomorrow evening, Class C South, Winthrop, Booth Bay Girls will kick it off. It's the 4th game this season if you count the conference championship game, which both those teams are counting. So Booth Bay won the 2 regular season meetings in close game. Winthrop won the conference championship game. The only 2 losses Winthrop has this season comes to Booth Bay. I've been asked a lot, actually, probably more about that than I've been asked my opinion on any other basketball game this week. I think it's a pick'em. I mean, I can see both teams. Yeah. I can see both teams winning that game. I don't think Brian Blethen is wrong, Booth Bay coach, when he says it comes down to rebounding, because Booth Bay has a legitimate size advantage, but they've also played some games this year where they've had that size advantage and not used it, and it's always on the boards. Monmouth beat them in early January because Monmouth hit the boards harder than they did, and so I think I honestly can see that one going either way. I tell you what, though, if Winthrop can shoot from outside and open up that defense a little bit, it's going to make life a little bit easier inside for the Ramblers, who are definitely undersized in that one. And then on the boys' side, we've got the Wayne Fleet-Winthrop matchup. I think everybody's kind of looking forward to. Yeah,
that's the game we've been talking about really all season in Class C South. They don't play each other in different conferences. They finished 1-2. Neither one really had a tough time getting to this game, so I think it'll be a great one.
Who wins?
That's a good question. I'm leaning towards Winthrop just because of their defense. I think they're a little more defensively disciplined than every other team in the bracket. And Todd MacArthur, we always talk about him breaking down film. He's probably breaking it down all night. He'll be here bleary-eyed tomorrow night, ready to coach his team up.
Yeah, he's one of the best in the game here. He's terrific, and Winthrop, as a whole in the last several years, is a really, really difficult out here. But I'll tell you what, that Wayne Fleet team is pretty good, and they've got some size. And if Winthrop doesn't come out and shoot the ball well tomorrow, they're going to be in big trouble, I think. It was a Dominic Campbell at 6'8". He's
who they put on him, Jevin Smith.
They have the size. So you talk about rebounding. And Winthrop does a really good job at that too. But they're going to have their hands full. I don't think they're going to have seen a team anything like Wayne Fleet. So they're going to have their hands full for sure.
I would agree. I think that's a great way to wrap up tonight. Gentlemen, thank you for an enjoyable night.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great one. It was actually almost worth the wait to have 2 good games like that, back to back. It's been a long week, but that was fun. It was entertaining all the way around, and huge. We should mention huge crowd here tonight.
This is the biggest crowd of the week.
This is the biggest crowd I've seen here in a long time.
By far.
That upper balcony at the Civic Center was full. But when I came out of away from the Hamden locker room after the girls' game. It was full all the way up to the ceiling. So it was a fun night.
And they all got their money's worth.
They all got their money's worth. So that was even the students who stuck in the back because the cheerleaders let them in. Don't tell the MPA. All right. That's the end of this edition of the Center Court Podcast. I'm Travis Barrett for Bill Stewart and Travis Lazarczyk. Thanks for listening. We will see you tomorrow on Saturday again from the Augusta Civic Center. And we'll have the wrap-up of Class D and Class C South, the regional finals. So we'll catch you then. Thanks again.